What's up guys, today we'll be going over the changes to auto reloading and damage buffs and debuffs in this game, and be breaking down how it's going to change the DPS meta in Shadowkeep and going further into the game. And these changes are going to greatly impact the way we all play the game in PvE, so we'll be breaking down exactly what those changes will be and what the meta might look like in Shadowkeep in terms of things like this. So first, auto reloading is out the window, and things like Luna and Rally now increase your reload speed while in a Luna Rift or behind a Rally barricade. Instead of taking ammo from your reserves straight into your magazine, this is now going to be a flat increase to reload speed with those two things. And this is going to impact different types of weapons in different types of ways. For example, one-shot grenade launchers such as Mountaintop is going to be impacted greatly because you're going to have to reload every single shot now, and adding in one reload for every single shot will greatly impact the overall damage per second of that weapon and weapons like that. Then on the other hand, something like a machine gun with 70 bullets in a magazine, you're going to be able to shoot 70 straight before you have to reload, but once you get to that reload, it's going to be very, very long. But you're not going to be reloading as often as the Mountaintop. Things like snipers are going to become a lot better overnight with perks like triple tap or 4th times the charm. You can shoot 10 or 11 shots straight with a sniper rifle without reloading. So snipers are going to become very good again without auto-loading in the game. Then things like shotguns, 140 RPMs are going to become even worse than they currently are, because you're going to tear through that first magazine of 8 shots very, very quickly. Then after that, you're going to have to reload one shot at a time and then shoot, reload, shoot over and over again. And that will make the high impact shotguns a lot better compared to those 140s, because once you get to that point where you're just reloading, shooting, reload, shooting, obviously you're going to take advantage of a higher impact shot per reload if the reload speeds are the same time, which will then result in a higher DPS once you empty that first magazine. These 140s were only ever good in this game because of auto-reloading. They were never good in Destiny 1, and high-impact shotguns were really good in Destiny 1 for this reason. While still talking about shotguns, this would be a perfect opportunity to bring back Final Round, which would work greatly in this new meta in Shadowkeep, like they did in Destiny 1. Once you're down to that final shot, take advantage of that final round, just reload, shoot over and over again, and it would be a really, really good addition at this stage in the game. Now, obviously, don't put it on snipers for PvP's sake, or if you do, make it not work in PvP, but Final Round would definitely be a really good comeback perk in this meta. So overall, up until this point in Destiny 2, it's been pretty much pick the weapon with the greatest rate of fire that also has decent damage, and that was pretty much the meta for the entire first 2 years of this game. Because of auto-reloading, you didn't really have to care about magazine size, reload, or anything like that. It was just purely what was the highest DPS, and that's what you used. And that's going to change in Shadowkeep, and it's going to be the closest meta to Destiny 1's meta that we've ever had, where you're going to really be looking at those things with higher magazines, triple tap, really good reload perks, something like rapid hit or even field prep for, when you're crouching, you can reload very quickly, and things like that. So just to recap real quick, what I think this will impact the most, in a way it'll nerf Mountaintop greatly for single target damage. It'll still be good for, major clear and stuff like that. Then on the opposite end of the spectrum, I think triple tap snipers will skyrocket to one of the best in the game, like they were in Destiny 1 for boss damage and stuff like that. And then there's things in the game like Izanagi's Burden, where you already reload anyways, so it'll stay the same as it is right now, and everything else around it will get worse, which will therefore make it better compared to everything else. So in a way, that will kind of jump up in the meta too. Then also in the same argument, things like Anarchy, where you can just shoot 2 shots and then swap off to a different weapon and not really worry about reloading it, and it just kind of does DPS over time by itself while you're doing other things. That will also go up in the meta too, just because everything else is getting worse. So there's ways to make other things in the game better without actually even touching it, and this change will create that effect to a lot of different weapons in the game. Up next will be the changes to buffs and debuffs in Destiny 2. So as you guys might have read in the previous twabs and director cuts from Luke Smith, you now only have one of each of the 3 main categories of buffs, and those are debuffs, buffs that affect your entire character's output damage, then also individual weapon buffs. So for example, that will be something like Melting Point, Well of Radiance, then Kill Clip, Rampage, something like that. So one of each of those categories. And this is going to limit our damage output in Shadowkeep in a much needed way, in my opinion. So if you look at the highest damage buff you can get right now, for the most part you use Well Radiance, Empower Melee, then you use one of the debuffs that are 50%, and that is pretty much all you really use. Then in Leviathan based activities, you can also use Strike in Hand and things like that, but for the sake of this, let's just say those 3 main buffs are the ones that you use. Remember, all buffs and debuffs multiply in this game, and that resulted in a 2.53x multiplier to your damage, and that was like the main stack used across the game. And now how that will change is you cannot use Well or Weapons of Light in combination with Empower Melee. You can only use one at a time, and it will take the highest one, which will be Weapons of Light at 35%. Then the debuffs are being changed to a cap of 30%, so all the debuffs in the game will be 30%, and that will be your 2 main buffs going forward. And now those result in a 1.755x multiplier to your damage, which is quite a bit less than the previous mentioned. Because of the way they stack, just taking out that one Empower Melee will affect it greatly. But to be honest, it's not like a huge difference like people are making out to seem. This next DLC will not be on Leviathan, so we're not going to be using Strike in Hand and all those other things, so we're really only missing out on the Empower Melee. Then also debuffs are getting changed slightly, which does, you know, like those numbers just showed, decrease the overall buff by a decent margin, but it's not like this crazy, like, you know, earth-shattering number like people are kind of saying out there. But what this will do in combination with the auto-reloading nerf is sustained damage is going to be very important in Shadowkeep, and throughout the history of Destiny 2, pretty much for the entire 2 years, sustained damage really wasn't a thing. Pretty much in 99 out of 100 scenarios in this game and encounters, you just took whatever was the highest damage per second, and that's all you needed, because everything in the game died before you ran out of ammo for the most part. So simply, you just looked at all the weapons in the game, in which everyone had the highest DPS is the one you used, and it was the meta. But now we're kind of going back to how it was in Destiny 1, where, you know, sustained damage is actually really important now. You know, things like snipers, you know, Anarchy, and all these other weapons like Whisper and things like that are going to become instantly really good again, because they output the most damage over the total of the reserves, compared to something like a grenade launcher, where it does crazy burst damage, but once you're out of ammo, you're done. Like, then what? Then just like in Destiny 1, depending on the actual encounter, strike, raid, whatever you're doing, you know, different weapons might be better in different situations, depending on how much health the boss has. Heavy grenade launchers still might be the DPS kings, but only if they do enough damage to actually kill the enemy. If you don't kill it, then what's the matter if you do a lot of damage really quick, then it still has 20% health left over, you have nothing left to shoot at it with. Now, obviously, this isn't an amazing example because you have, you know, special weapons and whatnot like that will finish off the rest of the health. But the point being is that there's not going to be one universal best weapon like there has been with auto-reloading in the game, and enough buffs to make it pretty much work in every scenario. Shotguns might be good on strike bosses, snipers might be good on raid bosses, you know, things like this. So with all this new knowledge, I'm gonna have to figure out a new way to test DPS and Shadowkeep and going forward in the game. Like I mentioned, DPS is still important, but sustained damage is also pretty much just as important, probably 50-50. So I'll definitely include, you know, the total damage output of the weapon, the sustained damage in all my videos going forward, which I already kind of been doing recently. But I'll definitely make sure that that is almost just as important as DPS going forward. But for the DPS itself, it's going to be pretty interesting, because now that we have to reload, that's going to impact the DPS of certain weapons more than others. Like mentioned at the beginning of the video, something like Mountaintop, where you're going to have to reload every single shot, is going to get impacted more than, like, let's say a triple tap sniper, where you only have to reload every 11 shots. So what I'm thinking I might do is show the DPS of one full magazine. So for example, a shotgun with 8 in the mag, shoot off all 8, get the DPS. Then maybe do the DPS over 2 mags, so that will include 1 reload. And I'm thinking that will provide you guys with enough information to compare weapons in terms of, you know, their pure damage per second, their reload speed, then also their sustained damage. And overall, what I think I'll do is I'll just provide more information per test and comparison. You know, break down the damage, the reload, you know, 1 full mag, sustained damage, things like that. And I won't necessarily show off me testing every single thing. I'll just kind of put up the information at once, and hopefully that'll serve enough to compare 2 weapons in a video, which is what I like to do. I like to compare things, not just have like a spreadsheet of knowledge, because I don't think the numbers really mean too much in this game. It's just mostly for comparison purposes. So I think including, you know, that DPS over 1 mag, the reload, and the sustained damage will be more than enough information to compare two weapons in different situations. So I think that's what I'll probably end up doing. But it's definitely going to change over time as I get used to it in the new system, and I'm definitely open to suggestions. Anyways, I want to make this video before the TWAB comes out tonight with the weapon changes, nerfs, and buffs to the sandbox. And in the next few weeks, I'm going to be making videos talking about different combinations and builds I think will be very good in Shadowkeep and kind of predict the metas. And this will kind of be like the base video for just talking about how these new systems will work. That way, if I allude to different things in those videos, you guys will kind of have like a base knowledge of some of these things. Anyways, I think I rambled a lot in this video, but I think I got a lot of my points across and what I think will change in Shadowkeep. Anyways, let me know what you think will be really good in Shadowkeep or really bad in Shadowkeep, and what you would like to see me do for comparisons and breakdown videos in Shadowkeep. Do you think I should do the, 1 mag DPS, reload speed, and sustained damage, or what else? Just let me know in the comment section below. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.